It is day 39 of 40 days in God's presence. Thank you so much for joining me for this study. And if you are new, if you happen to be just popping in and seeing this for the first time, I will link the original invitation to the end of this video. And I'm so happy that you're here, whether you've been with me all along or you're just jumping in to the first one or just a couple. The nice thing about this study is each chapter is unique and individual in its own. So you don't need to do it in order. I mean, it's great to start at the beginning and like binge them as you go along, just so you can keep track, I guess. But it's not necessary. There's no like flow of order in the book, so that's awesome. So here we are today on the Good Shepherd. So Luke 15 verse 4 says, "Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Does he not leave the 99 in open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it?" And that is the God that we have. He loves each one of his sheep. Now, I've done a study on Psalm 23. I want to do a video for each verse because it is incredible, and an overview in just 10 or 15 minutes of the whole Psalm 23 just does not do it justice at all. So I love this. I love this concept of us being God's sheep and him being our good shepherd. And he is not only the good shepherd, he is also the gate. He is the doorway. And that is shown in a visual of an actual shepherd will often, when they bring their sheep into a pen area, will lay in front of it. And so nothing can get in or out. You know, the sheep are safe and nothing can get in. And so he is the doorway as well. And that is just so, such a picture of Jesus being the doorway into the shepherd and into the fold of the shepherd. And so we are part of his sheep, and that is awesome. And God is so good to us, and he loves them, and he knows this. Just like a shepherd, God uses this picture because it's such a great example that because shepherds know the names of their sheep, good shepherds. I mean, so there are some shepherds who don't care as much. There are some shepherds, owners who give their sheep into the care of others just to maintain, their flock. But God, he knows his sheep by name. He is a good shepherd. He is one who takes good care. And again, Psalm 23 is such a great reference and a good matchup if you're going to be doing some study on this. John chapter 15, Psalm 23, and then this is Luke 15. And this is Jesus telling a parable, which he did often. He would often tell a parable to show a picture, to relate heavenly matters to us by earthly things and pictures so that we could understand it better. It says here, "The shepherd that had led his flock through deep valleys, watered them beside cool streams, now had to bed them down in the sheepfold near his home to protect them from the cold and also from predators." So he would use his staff. And if you've studied this at all, if you've done any reading in the scriptures about this, you're probably a little familiar. It says here, if the shepherds carefully aimed stones. So he's talking about when sheep veer off. That's just humankind, and sheep do the same thing. That's why we're so relatable. Is we will like to veer off the path. It's like, oh, look at that grass. Oh, look at that, that ledge, or look at the stones over there. Oh, let me go over here, go over there. And God, he would use his staff, right? And his rod and his staff, it would be to like bring you in. Well, it says here that he'll use a little slingshot like David would, and maybe shoot a stone to scare the sheep back into line with the rest of the fold. And it says, otherwise, other sheep, it says here, okay, if the shepherd's carefully aimed stone didn't frighten him back, other sheep would follow him, even if the path dropped right off a cliff. So basically, if one sheep starts to veer off, the shepherd is very careful to keep them in line because other sheep will follow them. And isn't that true? Like, we tend to be followers. And I guess I could speak of humankind, Americans. I don't know, how we want to generalize that, but we are, look at social media. Followers are the whole thing. Everybody wants followers. And here we, subscribe, like this channel, subscribe, follow me, that type of thing. I know that for me, getting on YouTube was about reaching one. If my video reaches one and encourages and inspires and stirs the heart, draws you closer to God, then I've done my job. I've done what God has called me to do. And I feel like this is just a great platform for that. So the thing is, I don't want followers just for numbers' sake. I am happy when I get subscribers because it means that the message God has given me is getting out there to people. And so, but we do have a tendency to be followers. And we know that there are many enemies out there. And so at the end of the day, the shepherd counts, all day long, he's keeping track and watching, and in this book, it's like, okay, there's Brownie, there's, Black and White, there's, Fluffy, and all these different names they have for the sheep. But at the end of the day, he counts them all, 98, 99. Oh my goodness, we're missing one. And then he will go to search for it. He will not, I don't care if there's a storm, how dark a night it is when they're getting down, he has to go find them. And that's his heart, is to go find. And so, and it is such a joy to know that God is seeking and saving the lost. Like that was his reason, Jesus' reason for coming, was to seek and save the lost, to find the ones who are hurting and heal them. And here is the same thing with the sheep. He doesn't want any sheep just left behind. And it matters to him that they're his father's, and he wants to have all of them safely in the fold. And so sheep will often run from strangers. They don't recognize their voice, but sheep will recognize the shepherd's voice. And so he will go and he will call. And I just visualize and like auditorily, I guess, visualize just hearing that voice. Even Samuel, before Samuel knew the voice of God, he ran to Eli and said, "Are you calling me?" And he's like, "No, go back to bed." And again, Samuel. So God calls us by name. And eventually Eli said to him, "That's God calling you. When he calls, just say, 'Yes, Lord, I'm listening.'" And so the same with going after the sheep. He'll be calling out, whether it's, "Hey, Brownie, hey, Brownie." He'll be calling out for that sheep, and all of a sudden he'll be hearing the bleat in the where it's at, hiding and crying out for help. And so then he will give thanks to God for one, that he found it, and then he will go and he will rescue that sheep, and whatever that looks like. I mean, sometimes they're on a craggy rock, sometimes and there's some images out there. Social media, and media is a wonderful gift. I'm so thankful for it, honestly. But there are some images of, Jesus carrying this cute little white lamb, back to the fold. But that's not how it goes. Usually when a sheep is lost, and it's one of those little young ones that has gone astray, it finds itself in the muck and mire. It finds itself on a craggy rock, so it probably has fallen and is scratched up and bloody. It finds itself in the briars, so it's probably the sheep, what do you call that? Their hair and all that, their skin is all full of briars, and so other wool, the lamb's wool. And so they are not looking pretty. They're dirty. They're messy. And Jesus picks them up. The good shepherd will pick them up. And often if they continue this pattern of running away, I've heard about how a shepherd will break the legs of his sheep, and then he will put it around his shoulders. He will carry it himself on his neck until that sheep heals. And he, in doing that, that sheep gets to know his voice and wants to be near, is just so used to being near him and cuddling up to him and receiving his tender, loving care, that he never, ever will want to leave him again. And so sometimes rebellion causes us to need that kind of a disciplinary act by God, out of love. And in the moment it seems awful, and it seems painful, and it seems unfair, it seems unjust. We don't understand. But God has a purpose for everything that he does. And so the shepherd will then pour oil on the badly bruised sheep's wounds and the bleeding, and attend to all of his wounds, and joyfully come home saying that he had found the lost sheep. And God, this is a parable, but it was told by Jesus with much passion, because God, it is a picture of the Father's love. And also it's a character profile of who Jesus is as the Good Shepherd. Excuse me. So if you have ever been lost, If you have ever felt lost, and there's seasons of life where sometimes things are not going the way, or events happen and we feel very lost. And if you have felt that way, whether it's been for days, even a few hours, months, or years, I want you to understand and think about how it feels when someone finds you. Like, even if you've been lost, this is a funny story, and my mother will probably chastise me. But at one time when she was dating her now husband, she was in Louisiana, he was in Ohio or wherever he may have been traveling at the time, and she got lost. And she called him and he found her on Google Earth and he gave her directions home. I mean, it was love. It was love at that point for sure. She knew she couldn't live without him anymore after that. And both my mom and her husband have YouTube channels, so I will link them below if you want. My mom is That Marion Chick on YouTube, and her husband is That Nate Guy on YouTube. And right now, they were traveling in their RV for quite a while, and so they have great videos on their RV experience, all their travels, and they also now have moved into a big, beautiful house and have all their daily vlogs. Nate and my mom. Well, Nate's doing daily vlogs, even on his weight loss as well. So anyway, just to let you know that that's there. But just consider how it feels when you are found, when you've been lost. And that it might even been a long time ago, but just consider that joy. And God wants us to enjoy him. That is what this study is about enjoying God, knowing God in different ways, different parts of God's personality, different ways that God meets us, different revelations of God in his word, and that we can enjoy even the confusing things, even that one, I'm not sure about that one. That's what all of this 40 days have been full of, like the Good Shepherd. Yeah, we know we can enjoy the Good Shepherd, but there's a few others that you're like, ooh, can I really enjoy that God? But yes, we can. Because if we know and learn his character, we understand what's behind the heart of what God does for us. And he's always looking out for us. And I like to say, it's kind of just a phrase, but it's from Romans 8:28. It's for our good and for his glory. He doesn't just do things for our good and just, it's all about us being happy. Happy is so temperamental. But what he does for us is for our good. He loves us, but it's also for his glory. Okay, so personal truth, we end each chapter with this. Once you are his sheep, you are always his sheep. He loves you and he's going to run after you. Personal prayer. Lord, how comforting and tender you are with your lambs. Thank you for loving me enough to lay down your life so I could enjoy your eternal sheepfold. And personal question, I'd love for you to jump into the comments. I like for this to be a community. How has the Good Shepherd comforted you? And I will tell you that the Lord has comforted me in so many ways. Whether it's from the loss of, like a miscarriage that I had years ago, or it's, just the moving around that we've done and having to leave different friends and churches and start over again in different places. God has always been my closest friend and my comfort.